Welcome to the Game On podcast. Tonight, another season, another confusing start at the tribunal. Port Adelaide couldn't have started any worse. And conversely, Adelaide couldn't have started any better. And the Shield venue was decided, but was it the right decision? All right, let's do this. Welcome to the Game On podcast. My name's Pete once again, joined in the studio here with Malcolm. Malcolm, how's your week been?
Yeah, mainly spent at Roulton. Interesting in terms of the venue-wise. Let's start on that.
Yep.
Now, I was sort of like, the grass and things like Les Burdett comes on and just blew it out of the water. And Les... it was on AA. You can go back on AA and find it.
Yep.
Spoke as forcibly as I've ever heard Les speak. Now, Les did happen to be at Roulton on Saturday afternoon, and I did say to him, I wish you'd said that 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And he said, politically, I just sort of couldn't, but I got so fed up with the amount of ridiculous information being provided, I just couldn't hold back any longer.
Yep.
Now, why in the hell the Cricket Australia goes and asks Victoria whether they could do it at the G, and they say no, and that weighs in on the decision. Mm-hmm. Damien Hoff and Les Burdett say it can be done. Now, if the two best in the world can say it can be done,
then it can
that's
be done.
Good enough.
Yep.
Now, and Les was so forceful about it. And look, the AFL wanted money towards the bus, the Footy Express for the next 4 years.
Which is a little bit of a weird... I know there's a negotiating process,
bizarre.
but that is bizarre.
Bizarre for mine.
Yep.
Now, considering I've heard sort of one of one and one of the other, that Adelaide wanted to be compensated for not training at Adelaide Oval in the week. Now, if that's correct, that is disgraceful.
Yep.
Just if, and I emphasise if, because I've heard both ways.
Yes.
I've heard another person say, no, that's incorrect. So I'm not sure on that one. But
well, there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to these things
so
that go around.
So that's being careful there and being and that.
Yep.
And just to say, if it had come out and said, right, now the costs are, for the cranes and this and that, and it's $1 million, and on average we think there'll be 2,000 to 3,000 every day at Adelaide Oval, we can't justify that money. I'd go, yep, not a problem.
Yep.
Now, word is they're spending considerable amount of money, up to $1 million apparently. Mm-hmm. Again, allegedly in terms of that figure.
Yes. But
stuff being done at Roulton, starting up the next day or so with a temporary grandstand. I admit I'd love to see a diagram because I was there trying to work out how to work.
Yes. And
the room, whether there's enough room on the far side, on the
eastern side.
Yeah, Newmarket Hotel side.
Yep, eastern side.
There, and some work also on the far side with some like a village green sort of work in that. Now you have got the other ovals behind and a bit of room there. So I could see how that could work.
Yep.
So there's stuff being done there. So, look, in that way, the one thing about Roulton is it's not an easy ground to get to. The parking is horrendous.
Yes.
I admit I'm going to bite the bullet for the grand final, bus and then tram, because getting a park is
going to be a little harder.
Oh, it's like winning Cross Lotto,
getting
a park at Roulton on a weekday.
Yes.
Weekend's not quite so bad. So in that way, look, it looks like at this stage, while we are recording, it does look like we will be playing Queensland.
Yep.
Results have gone their way in terms of other results. We will keep following the WA side, but Cartwright's just got out, so I don't fancy WA's chances are now getting 140 odd more off 25 overs.
Yep.
Look, now I will say one other thing. I'm going to be very careful here.
Mm-hmm.
Khawaja made himself unavailable this game, allegedly, purely to go to the Grand Prix. There has been some sort of comments made that he was carrying some niggles as well, but I think he had more former in terms of that way.
But it is a busy schedule, so if there are niggles
in that way. But
The sports science probably says that they don't play.
He's just
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
and I
here.
get that.
Yep.
But the male is he could have played.
Yep.
Now, I'm sorry. If in your team, you're someone you're playing in bowls with you or cricket or footy for me, effectively makes himself unavailable for the qualifying final, you're not going to really want to pick him for the grand final, are you?
Probably not.
Well, let's just leave it at that.
Yep.
That it may well, some Queensland players have interesting thoughts as well.
All right, mate.
Yeah,
well,
I've been careful on that.
no problem at all. We might talk a little bit more cricket a little bit later on, especially some more specific roles.
Yep.
But let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, coming up a little bit later, we've got the SANFL. The SANFLW is back on the agenda and the soccer, but let's kick off first, mate, with the AFL. Let's start with Port Adelaide. What has happened? All pre-season to start off well against Collingwood, but it just never happened.
Yeah, to not even be competitive and not chase the other way. It was pretty damning. There's been a lot of stuff posted since, and it highlights the on-ballers sort of only running their way and not working hard back.
Yep.
Some average efforts by some defenders not physical enough. So
Yep.
really damning a lot of the video stuff around.
How does that happen? I mean, let's unpack this a little bit here. Collingwood played in week 1 and really got sort of blown out of the water by a pretty impressive GWS, and we all know the talent that they do have, but they also had missing as well. Is it a case of a team that did have that round 1 game hardens them a little bit, maybe? I know you talked about this previously.
I'm big on that. I do think it does play a part, but it shouldn't be 91. It's not so much the 90. Well, it obviously is the 91 points.
Yep.
But it was more just the non-competitive parts of the footy where it looked like a little kids game.
Yep.
I can't know. I haven't got the ball buggy. And that's more the point. So that the acid tests on them now. Look, I think they've got the best side for them to play this week.
Yep.
If Port could have picked any side, it would have been Richmond. Richmond win round 1, so they're probably not going to. And they've got thrashed. They won't take them easy. I think Port to win by 10 goals plus is the better of the round.
There you go. They're going to turn it around. Let's just unpack that a little bit more. Collingwood almost looked fast, and we all know that everyone sort of said, almost a bit like Geelong a few years ago, too old, too slow, and they proved a lot of people wrong. They made Port Adelaide look ridiculous.
When you've got the ball, you're quick. The week before they're chasing, you look slow. I know that's being very simple, but it's also incredible that really only 1 or 2 players can change that up, can change that up pretty much. But, yeah, look, they're not the first team to get annihilated in round 1 and come back. So it's not – and, Collingwood last week it was close the doors. This week they're the best thing since sliced bread. So it goes overboard. Things are never as bad as they seem, and they're never as good as they.
All right, so Port Adelaide don't have Butters. That's a big.
It is. He's vital.
Yep.
There's no doubt. Yeah.
No Houston coming off of that back line. And
let's
talk about Houston here. They never really sort of went near him, which was just bizarre too.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like if there was, they should have been putting on physical contact on him, work him, knowing how elite he is at receiving the ball and using the ball. And I know it's more footy's changed and all that, but I'm sorry. Them all standing out on the ground to shake his hand, waiting for him to finish an interview and afterwards. You got time after the game. So it's not on camera to go and catch up with him that night. I've got no problem with that.
Yep.
But get off the ground. You've just been a night. You've been pants down.
Yep.
It's not like you've lost a close one you've played with honour. You've got annihilated. Houston's killed you. Stop all being best mates with him. You can be best mates, but piss off and get off the oval.
Yep. So Port Adelaide have been labelled, which is very unusual for me to say. I can't even believe I'm saying it. It's too nice.
It was
crap. Is that the case? Is Port Adelaide too nice? I mean, Richmond better look out this week because they're going to be fire and brimstone. But are they too nice?
Yeah.
Is it the modern football?
I think it's the modern. Yeah, it's the modern person. You've also got to remember the modern Port player He's not grown up down the Port. He hasn't grown up loving that club
Yep.
and, doesn't bleed black and white. It's totally different.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, well, the 80s and 90s are completely different to what we're at now, but the team not playing for the coach, that's the other thing that's probably the most concerning, and this gets down to really this succession plan. They haven't worked in the past.
Yeah, I'm not.
Why do we think this one's going to be any different?
Yeah, I'm not so much worried about that. There's one thing about Ken Hinkley is the players in general. You only hear you very rarely get. Of course, you get the odd negative comment from the guy who's not getting picked.
Yes,
You're going to get that anyway.
Yes,
but overall, I would say I've heard as much positive Ken Hinkley
Yep.
as anyone ever. So out of that, again, let's just wait and see. Put the brakes on for a few weeks. If they go out this week,
Yep.
and don't go ferociously,
Yep.
and that,
Then you got problems.
then I think you have against Richmond, against an average rebuilding, against a rebuilding side.
So here's a question without notice. Should have Kenny Hinkley stepped into a director of coaching role this year and given clean air to Josh Carr?
Look, they did make last year's prelims
Yep.
with a list which probably doesn't deserve to be in top four.
We've said that
You know,
time and time
you
again.
can sit there and say they still overachieved under Hinkley.
Yep.
So I've got no problem with him again going this year. Let's, again, wait and see. 3-1.
Yep.
Yes, and it's alarm bells on round one. A damning effort.
Yep.
And that. But
Do you believe they've got the talent to make top 8? Because I have them in my middle 6.
yeah, I think they're borderline.
Yep.
I think
That's where I have them in
iffy,
that middle
you know,
6.
But again, as we said, you could have put 15 sides in the 8, 14 or 15 sides in the 8. It's not easy.
No, I agree with
So,
that.
you know.
But I know round 1 form, a bit like trial game form or preseason form, take it with a pinch of salt. But missing a couple of players, are we seeing the Georgiadis, Lukosius and then Finlayson moves not quite working as well as they should so far?
Well, you can question, are they all too similar?
That is what I'm questioning.
And lacking a player of physicality, crunch to make the contest.
Like a Charlie Dixon.
Yeah, so out of that, but Charlie's body was gone. With a capital.
I totally agree.
With a max gone.
Well, which one out of those three is going to step up and be the big-bodied player? Probably Georgiadis.
Georgiadis, probably.
That's probably the pick there.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide, have got their challenges this week, but I think it's going to be interesting when it comes to our tips a little bit later on as to who you pick. You've already flagged
they're my bet of the round.
that Port Adelaide are probably going to go out and win by 10 goals. So we'll see how that one pans out. All right, let's flip across the road there to West Lakes. Adelaide couldn't have started the season any better. They looked like a team that was very, very connected. I actually went to the game.
Okay.
And saw it
You're
firsthand.
well in front of me because
Yep.
I've seen the highlights and looked at a few
Yep.
other things. I was at...
It's probably the most connected I've seen them since 2017.
Yeah, look, they've suddenly got a bit more depth. The Peakling, Neil Bullen and Cumming gives them some more depth. So
Well, it gives versatility as well. That's the thing.
So suddenly a Lockie Murphy's not playing.
Yep.
And that's nothing against Lockie Murphy, but he shouldn't be on no field list.
Yep.
So suddenly they've just got a bit more depth.
Yep.
And they're lucky at the moment. They've got no injuries.
Yes.
Now let's wait and see Adelaide get a few injuries, and then and Murphy plays again and things like that.
Yep.
That's when we're going to have to see how they go.
Yep.
I think they've got a huge game this week.
Yes.
Because I got to admit, I was really impressed with Essendon.
Yep.
In terms of they won so many key stats, and I thought they were good. They got beaten by a side who were probably as elite by foot in a game as we've ever seen.
Yes.
Like they consistently lace guys, 50 metres away in between two opponents.
Yep.
It was just by foot, they were magnificent.
Yep.
So out of that game, I was watching that whole game, and I thought it was a fascinating game in terms of Essendon. Well and truly enough of the ball to win.
Yep.
And their ball use wasn't terrible. It wasn't in the Carlton class.
No,
they didn't use it quite well enough.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Hide all the sharp
Yeah.
objects from around me because it wasn't great.
Shout out to Peter Young, mate, who went to a Carlton went to the game as a Carlton supporter. We were stirring him up on Saturday that they should have brought him on as the small forward.
Super sub.
Yeah, so I thought I thought there was a lot of positives, and I'm not a huge, I question Essendon over a lot of things.
Yep. But their consistency is the key. And Adelaide's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Their foot...
It's a massive game this week.
Their ball movement was very slick and very good until the wind really sort of got up, and then all of a sudden, trying to kick against that breeze, it was coming back 20 metres, and people weren't just in the right drop.
It did get swirly.
Didn't get in the right drop zone, especially late in the game. But by then, the game had been well and truly done. I just felt that Adelaide were much more connected. Yes, they're only playing St Kilda, who are missing a few players, but the intent was there. It looked like a lot of the structure that Matty Nix has got in play held up when St Kilda did have a little bit of a dip there for a bit.
Yeah, I agree, but let's wait and see how they go against better opposition. I've still got question marks in that way. I admit I'd play KRIEVS. Personally,
I was surprised that he wasn't picked.
I would have started in Malira at SANFL level.
Yep. Even though he was pretty silky.
Yeah. Again, average opposition.
Yep.
Look, there's a lot to like, but let's wait and see.
Big question mark. Rochelle spent most of his time forward. I think that was fantastic. Everyone's flying come pre-season, but it looks like he's put in the hard work. And
he did a couple of footy smarts things, the smart soccer from the boundary line, almost like the centering corner kick for then just to be tapped over the line for a goal. It was footy smarts. His take and give was first time consistently.
Yep.
His hands were really good. And if he's doing that, then they can afford Rankin to spend more time on ball.
Correct. Team first mentality, especially. The three new recruits, they seemed to play their role perfectly, and everywhere you looked, there they were. So that just gives that little bit of freedom, I suppose, to Dawson, a little bit to Rankin, just takes the pressure off a little bit.
And then, because if a team can't lock Dawson down, his leg's just so powerful.
Kicked one from just on the corner of the centre square. Yes, there was probably a little bit of breeze behind him, but
it's a beautiful kick.
He actually burnt the guy off. That's really what it gets down to. Adelaide's an interesting watch for me. I probably have them in that middle six, but more of the upper middle six, whereas Port I have in that middle six. So it's going to be very interesting. All right, let's talk concussion. It's back on the agenda. We've all seen the incident with Jackson Archer. Mate, your thoughts first up, and then we'll go from there.
It's a real hard one, this one, because Jackson Archer's unlucky, but then you can also say it was just kamikaze attack. Those days are gone, the kamikaze attack on the ball and body and take the risk. So,
let's play both sides of the field.
Yeah, look, there really is on this side, and then I'm going to tee off on the other two.
Yep. So let's look at this one in isolation just at the moment. Jackson Archer had a duty of care, yes or no?
Well, you do have a duty of care. It's not whether we like it or not.
No, but do you think he had a duty of care?
Oh, you do have a duty of care. That's not the question. Every player's got a duty of care each ball. You can argue on this.
But what about his opposition player going to ground?
So he has. So there's an argument each way on that.
Were you surprised that the 3 weeks was upheld?
Considering I've watched it pretty closely and scrolling the evidence tonight, I was.
Yep.
I thought he had a genuine chance at getting off from the evidence.
Yep.
So I think he's unlucky.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go on the other two now.
Well, hang on. Before you do that, I just want to say one thing.
Yep.
We can't legislate to take out football collisions.
Yeah, and that's how I still deem that. I think there's enough doubt on that one.
Yep.
Yes, it's kamikaze. You can say you can't do kamikaze acts anymore, but I think on that it's benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
And I think he's pretty unlucky.
And this is where I'm at with it as well. You can't take out football collisions. It is a contact game. Yes, both players had a duty of care, but they almost cancel each other out. And unfortunately, in this case, the outcome has decided what the result is. What had happened if Archer had broken his knee or
Yeah.
then how do you?
Yeah, I know.
Because the player went to ground. So, yeah, it's a slippery slope for me, and it's going to be an interesting watch at the tribunal moving forward. All right, let's talk about the other two decisions because they were probably a little bit more black and white, weren't they?
I detest
Yep.
this because it's only 10 grand. And let's be honest, for an AFL and especially the big club, that's change out of the glove box. It's absolute bullshit what Richmond did tonight.
Yep.
Now, if you go on to Fox Footy, you can click it on. It's the first one. Scroll through. The evidence Richmond and Lynch said is pathetic.
Yep.
It is crap.
Yep.
To try and claim that he got pushed by Wietering in it. Anyone watching, a 3-year-old pushes you harder than that on the swing.
Yep.
It's bullshit.
Yep.
Richmond, for mine, even if he got off tonight,
Yes.
I was still saying they gained far more in the long term by going, Tom, you're a key player. You're on huge coin, but you are a vital player in this rebuilding phase of this football club. Acts like that are not good enough.
Yep.
Be disciplined. We know now. Don't bump. Don't choose to bump.
Yep.
He chose to bump.
Yep.
It was ill-disciplined. It's dumb.
And that's where that black and white comes in.
Yep,
That
it's
is not a football collision anymore.
No, shit no.
And we know that because we've seen time and time again over the last 2, maybe 3 years that has been, outlawed, blacked out. Players should know by now. I know it is an instinctive process to try and protect yourself, but at the same time, you do have options these days. What about the other decision that you flagged here? Because this one's probably a little bit more of a bugbear than anything.
Well, this one, so Scrimshaw, Hawthorn are going up trying to get it downgraded.
Yep.
So they're not debating that he's guilty.
Yep.
They're trying to get it downgraded. It's saying from 3 to 2 that it's high, not severe.
Yep.
Sorry, he's punched him in the head. He's caused concussion.
Yes.
That's assault out on the street.
Yes.
Of course it's severe.
Yep.
So they're deliberating now.
Yep. I can't see this one getting off.
Nor can I. Look, I will say reading the evidence has been slightly better than Lynch's, which isn't a compliment.
No.
Out of that, I just think because now there's no ramifications. I didn't like the bit of if you challenged it went up, but I tell you what, it stops this bullshit.
Yep. Yeah.
It's pathetic.
This wouldn't have happened if
these
if that
two
had been-
don't go up at all.
Agreed. All right, mate. Let's. Before we get on to the actual games of round 1, because opening round was a fortnight ago, and we'll talk about this as part of this. Who was your biggest disappointment from the weekend?
Carlton.
Right. Fair enough. Me too, mate. Should opening round be all 9 games?
Yes.
At 1 game in Melbourne and the rest outside of Melbourne?
Yeah, I think that's okay, but I think all teams have got to play because of the advantage, and they still haven't got it right that, okay, the Cyclone made it harder, but if you're going to not have every team play the first week, they must play each other the second week.
And that didn't happen again. So buys that are almost spaced out to round 15, I think that's crazy. I mean, I like the idea of the 4 off 1 week, 4 off another week, at various stages through the season. It just makes it
you're not
hard.
You're not going to be able to look at the premiership table for the whole year.
Correct.
It's pathetic.
Yep. For a major organisation, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the games. Thursday night, Richmond absolutely stunning Carlton, and it hurts me to say this, but they were the better side in the end.
They were, but Carlton just panicked. Look, for Richmond to win games this year, that sort of thing's going to happen. 13-5 or 13-4 and the opposite kick 9-15. That's what's going to have to happen.
Realistically,
they are only going to win a few games for Richmond. And that probably, I think, makes the result worse for Carlton.
Yes. Are you surprised that Carlton panicked the way that they did? Because for me, I think that's just unforgivable as far as a senior team that is expected to play a team of young kids, which is what Richmond are.
Yeah.
And for them to panic was...
There was 7 goals up.
This is what I'm saying. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, look, it's just weird. It really looked like it's game over, and you look, this is a chance for a 100-point win here.
And they stopped.
Yeah.
It was like quicksand.
But they still had, was something like 25 more inside 50s in the end. So some crazy stats.
Yep.
But they just kept bombing it. Didn't lower the eyes. Why not just the old instruct? I want you to see a kick it low and play some chaos ball. We talk about that all the time.
Yes.
And it's just ridiculous.
Which is what Richmond did, and it ended up paying dividends for them.
Well, Richmond won premierships out of it.
That's exactly right. And Brisbane sort of did the same a little bit last year towards the end of the year.
I just think just get it in low.
Yep.
Create a contest and lock it in. But they just kept booting it in, and Richmond would bring it out. It was,
for me,
it was stunning. It was jaw-raking watching it.
For me, Cripps in the ruck, that is just...
It's weird,
that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's weird.
No Charlie Curnow, and it looks like no Carlton, which is too much is being left to too few. That's really what my takeaway from that was. All right, we did talk briefly Hawthorn and Essendon. You were pretty impressed with Essendon. Hawthorn, they just find a way, don't they? And that exciting brigade
they're fantastic
again is fantastic to, as you said, to watch. But geez, watch out opposition players. They're almost like that Collingwood of a couple of years ago, where they just are everywhere.
D'Ambrosio, Amon. They've got the elite, those couple of elite left footers.
Yep.
As I said, their disposal. Watson's a very good kick as well, the Wizard. And he was quiet round one.
Yes.
Brilliant round two.
Is it a case of Hawthorn of 2007, 2008, where they just, that mosquito fleet of left footers that were just so damaging?
It was certainly their disposal was just fantastic on Friday night.
All right, let's move on to the Cats, winning by 78 points against the Dockers. A little bit of a surprise.
Surprising how big a margin is, and especially when Freo had come back. And it was funny, I'd been to Karen Roulton, Kana Paynham was helping run a past players day in that regard. And so we just had the footy on in the background. And Freo kicked 4 goals in 6 minutes. That's pretty challenging. We didn't realise that it was the same player, that it was Reid on debut. We didn't, because we weren't, none of us were watching it as closely as that. And then, so you're thinking at 3/4 time, this could be a good finish yet, and go down, and then they fell away again. I think that's the real disappointing thing. That Freo sort of, and Carlton are known for doing that. A really good quarter and failing away. And okay, Freo had a few out, and Bolton's obviously the huge recruit. Let's see how he goes.
Walters and co.
But again, Bolton, consistency's not his middle name either.
No.
So let's wait and see on them. But so what a huge game it is, Freo and Sydney this week.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one in a minute. Sydney going down to Brisbane in the grand final rematch by 4 points. Brisbane found a way to win as well. Yeah,
they're just probably tougher in terms of just not so much, I reckon, as tough mentally. They were just played it a bit smarter, I thought, as well. I was watching that reasonably closely in the last half. Zach Bailey, very good. Nord boy, just because he didn't play a senior game, we still claim him.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Simon Neves, stepdad, so there's a big thing there. Was very good. And interesting enough, Brisbane win. Cameron pulls out for the game. All the best to Sam Day on the loss of his dad. I did meet a few times over the time
journey,
at Prince's and that. So all the best there to Sam.
Is it a worry for Sydney?
I think it is. So I know they played reasonably but lost both games. Now if they play reasonably but lose to Free, you can't keep going too many more, because then top 4 goes out the window. Okay, Brisbane won it last year at the top 4. We know that, and we know it can happen. But
do they have the quality to be able to do it like Brisbane do or had?
Well, I think there's still question marks over their forward line massively. They need Amadi to be far more consistent. McCartan experiment is still very much an experiment.
Well, I mean, they lose the grand final a couple of years ago.
They do have a lot of injuries at the moment.
They lose it a couple of years ago. They sort of have a little bit of a dip. Then they're back up again. Is it a case that we might have a little bit of a dip this year? I know it's only for round 2 for them.
Yeah, but Warner getting injured was just so important.
It's huge, isn't it?
That's massive. Don't tell me they're not at least 1-1 with you.
No, agree. The Western Bulldogs. This was an entertaining game, getting up by 16 points over North Melbourne. Sort of gave North a little bit of a chance with the Bulldogs' injuries, but they found a way. And Is Bontempelli going to remain at the Western Bulldogs? That's probably my big question leading into talking about them.
I still think he will. Yeah, I'll be surprised.
Yep.
So wait and see.
Absolutely. All right, we already talked to Port Adelaide in the Adelaide games. Let's talk Melbourne. What can I say? Soul-destroying last 2 minutes for Melbourne, and what a fantastic last 2 minutes for the GWS Giants.
Yeah. Again, my pet hate though, Johnson. I know it's his first game, but out of that, but it was more his technique for running in to kick at goal. Good luck.
Yep.
If he's got a shot for goal to save my life this year, can you have a few beers, mate?
Yes.
Out of that, and then the play down the middle. Ironically, Whitfield miskicked it. There's one guy, very unusual,
who doesn't miskick it. Yep.
But Callahan's effort to come through, to be tougher, want the ball more.
Yep.
That play won the game.
Yes.
And that was brilliant. Lovely kick by Ward. And the journeyman, Keith, finished off, you know. So,
do you think the option of putting Petrarca in the forward 50 for that last centre bounce was the right move and leave it up to Viney and Oliver?
Yeah, you could have maybe. And gone off too long. Look, again, that is one of my pet hates. It's rehearse what time the person comes off the ground. Then they can't get back on because the ball's on the far side.
Yep.
I'm dead against compulsory interchanges.
Yep.
I want coaches to coach.
Yep. Have that instinct or that feeling that something needs to happen and make it happen.
Any of us can sit there and write a piece of paper out.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
I hate it.
Players kicking goals in 30 seconds after the game started and they're already off the ground.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, let's finish off with the Gold Coast Suns taking on West Coast, beating them by 87 points. Gold Coast can win away.
Yeah, I did go to the Archibald to watch. I went from Karen Roulton to the Archibald to watch that.
I'm sure you had a couple of sales lined up.
Yeah, I did get another one there. I did all right at the Archibald on the weekend.
Well done.
Great pub.
We should try and do a live broadcast from there at some stage. That'd be a bit of fun. Yep.
Look, they were good, but geez, West Coast might finish 19th.
Yep.
They were Scheisenhausen.
Right. So my big one out of this one here is Harley Reid. Where is he at? Is he going to be the young gun we think he could be or should be?
He was really disappointing, just with some dumb things as well.
Yep.
Like,
is this the frustration or is this the I'm the big dog?
It was maybe a bit of both. The guy I was watching it with, both of us were going, for fuck's sake, pull your head in, shut up, and just play the ball.
Yep. Yeah. Which is do what he does best. All right. One other question without notice there. How did Geelong get Bailey Smith into their cap? What a gun. And could there be another gun heading their way?
Look, they sell the club really well on the lifestyle. That's a real big winner to get the lifestyle.
Yep.
He's bought a place a couple of minutes away from there. They love the beach bit. You know, Dangerfield does the fishing show and has them out. Cameron's there with his farm. So it's all that. It's totally different.
Yes.
So it's a real selling point.
And do you think those guys are taking unders to allow these players to get in?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
But, also, who knows what other stuff goes on. But
we will leave that one to the side.
Let's leave that.
It's under investigation at the moment. But,
but what I'll say out of that is he's saying he wasn't in contract. Now, so the player, once that happens, it's almost too hard. I think you're going to get more and more clubs are going to try and make sure they've got guys on contract and not let it go. It's almost like, while it's not as bad, it's becoming like the English soccer system where you trade guys while they've still got a year to go at least on their contract.
Yep.
So
that's unofficially happening now. But I think
so. I think it's going to become more and more.
More open, yep.
Because, what they get? Draft choice 17 for them. So, it's probably unders.
Yep.
But they almost had to take what they could get. So, it's a hard one, but I think that's more the bit, well, hang on. Let's go with guys. You commit?
Yes. You're committed. Just the last one on the AFL hot topics at the moment. Patrick Dangerfield steps down today as AFL Player Association representative or president, I suppose, whatever you call it. And Darcy Moore is going to take his place. So two pretty learned gentlemen as far as footy goes and the footy landscape as well.
Update from the Whacker.
Yes, mate.
6 for 282.
Yep.
15. They need 100 off 15 overs.
Okay, so it becomes 20-20.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, so it's
game on.
Game on. They've got 40. This two have got 40 off 44 balls.
Okay, so
yeah.
there is a bit of an intent there.
Yeah,
All right, we might follow that up a little bit
Don't worry.
later.
I'm following it.
We might follow it up a little bit later when we talk a bit more on the cricket. All right, let's get some tips for this week. Carlton v Hawthorn.
Hawthorn.
Thursday night at the G. All right, the Bulldogs v Collingwood. Footscray
yes.
versus Collingwood.
Collingwood
For me. Essendon v Adelaide.
Essendon.
Adelaide for me. Port Adelaide v Richmond.
Port Adelaide.
Port Adelaide, yeah. I think Port Adelaide will get up, but I reckon Richmond will give it a shake for a period of time. Might be early on. St Kilda v Geelong. Geelong at Marvel for me. Brisbane Lions v West Coast Eagles at the Gabba.
Brisbane could be on the piss now, and I still reckon they get up in that.
Gotcha. Brisbane for me as well. North Melbourne v Melbourne.
I'll go Melbourne.
Melbourne for me. That's at Marvel Stadium. All right. And Fremantle v Sydney, which is probably the game of the round.
Yeah.
Yep.
Game of the round, the old if in doubt, go the home side. We're recording this on a Tuesday. I'd love to see the sides to see if Bolton gets up and all that, because that would probably affect my tip at this stage.
Yep.
If in doubt, I'm going to go in favour of the home side, so I'm going for Fremantle.
I'm going to go for Fremantle as well. The long trip across the middle of Australia, across the Nullarbor there, pretty tough for Sydney. And that means there are buys to the Suns and the Giants this weekend.
All the best to Charlie Ballard too. Sad news coming through today. So his dad Simon's a ripper of a bloke.
Yes.
Involved with Ultratune.
Yes.
High up with Ultratune. So just all the best there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sending our best wishes. All right, mate, let's take a quick break. Let's have a look at what's coming up. We've got Adelaide United, unfortunately not quite getting the chocolates against Macarthur.
The defence was like pause.
The SANFL trial games have concluded with some interesting results. We'll talk about them as we go along. And the local cricket, obviously, South Australia taking on Queensland at Roulton Oval.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary KRIEVS, your dedicated local agent from OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary KRIEVS at OUWENS CASSERLY Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen. All right, and we thank our sponsors there for continuing to help us out with our episodes. Mate, let's talk Adelaide United in the soccer. Frenetic 5-4 loss to Macarthur. 2-0 down after a very short period of time. Then 3-2 up and then 5-4 down. It's a game of fluctuating fortunes, wasn't it?
Let's just say the defence was the defence was built around the ground. It wasn't out on the ground. Yeah.
Yep.
Terrible.
Adelaide United now find themselves in 6th spot in some vulnerable territory. They really need to get on their bike to get that finals winning feeling back, which I think they can go all the way, but it's just this inconsistent form.
Carl Veer to be pulling his hair out in terms of just the basic errors they make and the goals they're conceding.
Yep.
Yeah. It was crazy. Some of the goals from both sides were just horrendous defending.
Yep. Adelaide United take on Melbourne. Victory 20th of March at 7:05 in Melbourne. They're currently sitting in 5th spot, so this becomes a huge game for Adelaide United, and they probably need a couple of other results to go their way. All right, let's talk SANFL trial games. Some trial games were obviously played on the weekend. Sturt obviously getting up there over North Adelaide at Mount Barker.
Yeah, a bit of a bizarre scoreline.
Yeah.
8-20 to 8-6. So they won by 14 points and had 14 more scoring shots.
Yep.
Of course, that lovely amount of points does bring back memories of the 78 grand final, 16-15 to 14-26.
I sort of knew you were going to bring something up along those lines there. Great to see the Summit Mount Barker Oval being used, and I think Sturt are going to probably make use of that this year, and the SANFL are going to use it a lot more, which is great. All right, Glenelg getting up over Centrals.
Yeah, look, Glenelg are probably the team to beat. We acknowledge that.
Yep.
You know, with who they've brought in as well. You know, Jared Lyons, Luke Partington back. Good luck any team competing with them, I think.
Yep.
So, in terms of, I think Port or Adelaide, with all their AFL players available, might, but they are well and truly the team to beat.
They are indeed for me as well. Good on Centrals for taking it up to them for a fair amount of time there. Result that probably didn't surprise us too much, Woodville West Torrens getting up over West Adelaide.
Yeah, pretty convincingly. Unfortunately, I think the Bloods and South will struggle again.
Yep. Is it a case of West sort of taking a step backwards again this year? They look like they took a step forward last year a little bit, but does the off-field stuff play into
doesn't make
some
it easy.
of that?
Doesn't. It's not easy. It's survival each year, which is,
trying to keep your head above
above
water.
water is bloody hard battle. Day after day. So it's hard.
A strategic plan there needs to be had by all interested parties, and I think you said before, if they'd got their sort of pokies out on the main road, it might have helped a little bit, and
that should have.
But you don't want to rely on that and meals and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway,
it's not easy.
And the other one that was interesting to all of us last week talking about it, we had a double header at Alberton Oval. Adelaide defeating South Adelaide at Alberton in the early game, and then in the late game, Nord defeating Port.
Yeah, I still admit I don't know why, if Noarlunga was unavailable or anything. I don't know. Not sure if there's been ground maintenance. Who's sure? Sure. That
would there be ground maintenance at Norwood for the start of the footy season?
There will be, but the 18s were, because of the weather.
They started early.
Yeah, so that game they were meant to be played all at the Summit, all 4 of the 18s games.
Yes.
But Nord's 18s got switched back to Nord, so they played early at Nord.
Yep.
And they had to win Nord's 18s. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Adelaide, not massively convincing against South Adelaide. I mean, they won by 40-odd points. They're just sort of going through the motions at the moment. There probably would have been a couple out of that as a reserve for...
they might have held a couple back. Others would have played on a limited minute. It's all... Hey, the real competition's a trial game, let alone a trial game.
Exactly right. And Nord obviously getting up over Port, as we already said.
Yeah, Nord came from behind in that game. So a couple of things there were encouraging, because they still have got a lot of players out at the moment. The amount of injuries at this stage of the year is quite bizarre.
Almost reminds you of a couple of years ago where they started off behind the 8 ball. We didn't mention this earlier on. Harry Boyd obviously playing against the Crows on the weekend. I thought he was quite serviceable at times. Just sort of got overshadowed a little bit, and that's that fitness that comes into play. But he did some really, really good things too.
He battled well. It's his height. He's like a height.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I just wish he was that bit taller.
Yep. All right, let's talk round 1 games quickly. Port Adelaide v Glenelg, round 1.
Yeah.
This starts on the 28th of March. We'll talk a bit more in depth next week, but let's just touch on it now.
So, sorry.
Port Adelaide v Glenelg, round 1, Alberton Oval.
Yeah, look, that could be interesting. Depends on availability.
Yep.
Yep.
But being at Alberton Oval, 7:10 Friday night.
Yeah, I'll still go for Glenelg.
Yeah, me too. Centrals v the Eagles, probably game of the round for me.
Yeah, that's potentially pretty even.
Yep.
At the Ponderosa, I'll go for the Dogs.
Yep, early call on that. Yeah. Adelaide v West Adelaide or West Adelaide. Yep, Adelaide for me. Panthers v Sturt. And Nord v North on a Saturday night. And we were just talking about this, that it might be televised because of
that's the word.
The Channel 7 blackout with Fox doing the Super Saturday.
The word is it's a TV game.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see. Saturday night game, how many we get at the home of football.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I will probably be there,
Yep.
and I know you'll be there probably on the scoreboard.
Yep.
As I said, we'll talk a bit more depth next week. All right, let's talk SANFL. Round 1 did get under the way on the weekend. Central's getting up over Glenelg.
Yeah, interesting. Central's trial games hadn't been great, so again, ignore trial games at
Yep.
your peril.
Yes.
So yeah, good result there for the Dogs. South probably again. South beating Nord by 4 goals. That fluctuated a bit. Nord
Yes.
were in front early, but South up are the team to beat again.
Yep.
We've got sort of a bit of a stranglehold on SANFLW. They
Yep.
are certainly the best team.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well done to Woodville West Torrens getting up over Sturt.
Yeah.
Sturt are usually pretty strong. But
So yeah, it was interesting. It was a pretty convincing win too.
Yep.
8-5 is to 2-6, a pretty convincing result there.
absolutely. And then the big one was almost a goal near the siren there. West Adelaide
Yeah.
getting up over North
Over
Adelaide.
North, so a good result there for the Bloods at least.
Absolutely. And like you said, South Adelaide getting up
Yeah.
over Norwood there. What do we expect from some of these teams? I mean, the perennial ones, South have come through in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The Bulldogs pinched a premiership there a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Glenelg always seemed to be around the mark, building. Norwood has certainly been there a couple of times themselves. And we know what Sturt can achieve. Is it going to be one of these even seasons where
I hope
it
so.
could
I
go
really
each
do.
way?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Hope so.
really looking forward to it. All right, mate, let's circle back to the cricket. South Australia in their Shield game, you have been at Karen Roulton this week. Just a quick rundown on, some big scores being made by some players that would like to get in form for a final.
Saturday was bloody hot there.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, Connor, we were a little bit lucky early. Couple of LB appeals, some playing misses and all that. I thought Connor was pretty lucky early, but then batted well.
Yep.
He does owe Jimmy Pearson a beer because he nicked one on 56 and Jimmy just forgot to catch it.
Yes.
And let it go. But look, he needed runs. He's a controversial selection this game.
Yep.
I admit I probably would have gone Harry Nielsen.
Yes.
But I understand why they went Connor
Yep.
still. And look, it's hard to argue with any of their selections this
No,
year.
they've been
A couple of times
bang
I've
on.
disagreed and, Henry Thornton, man of the match in the final. So, yeah, some things there. So, look, everyone spent some time in the middle. Nathan McSweeney threw away 100 in the first innings. He's still getting hit on the pads a bit much for my liking.
Yep.
I think he's just a bit lazy today. Probably a hard game to be switched on today.
Yep.
Jason Sanger has a hit, both innings, 67 and 101. He's a good player.
Yep.
Again, Jake Batterville. And Alex Carey just steps back.
Does what Alex Carey does.
He got offered this game off, and he said, no, I'm playing. I want to play. I need a hit against, I want to have a hit
Yep.
against a ball which is bouncing a bit more than Sri Lanka.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly a bit different attitude than a couple,
Yep.
others. And look, Alex is hell-bent. He got out in the Shield final. He hit down at Glenelg, and he misjudged it. Hit it against the wind and got out. And he's still dirty on himself
Yep.
for that years later.
Yep.
And he's hell-bent on IO
He wants-
South Australia Shield. I have enormous respect for the Carey family.
He wants to put that one to bed, and I don't blame him for that at all. Connor McNerney, obviously player of the match there, 142 in the first innings.
Yeah.
Was it good that South Australia did get a lot of time out in the middle and really, let's hypothetically say they do play Brisbane?
I think we're going to play
Brisbane?
Queensland.
Queensland
It is looking
again?
that way. Yeah, it is because WA have just lost another wicket.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's pretty much we're going to be playing
Yep.
Queensland.
Is it a case of that that they've made their bowlers just bowl that little bit more, or is it a case of they're professional enough that they'll recover reasonably well?
It was a flat deck.
Yep.
Look, it looked like they weren't going to get. Queensland needed to get 330 to get in front of Victoria.
Yep.
That's where it was with a bonus points
Yep.
situation to cover themselves
Yep.
And yeah, of the crowd of say 100 odd people at Karen Roulton, there was only 12 who clapped when they got the 330. The Queensland rooms went up. Geez, you could hear Labuschagne.
Yes.
Is he loud?
Yes.
He makes me look like Marcel Marseille.
I love it.
there. So, look, good luck to him. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens, though, as I said.
Is it going to be a case of who wins the toss?
No, because it's on bonus points now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, again, it's probably easy if you've got it and look it up.
Yep.
But probably the easiest way to explain it, while it's 0.01 for every run after 200 in that way, look, it's whoever scores more basically in the first innings in all likelihood, unless the team that hasn't been bowled out.
Yes.
So it can become a little bit conducive there. So say if you've made 300 but get bowled out.
Yep.
Now, the other team might make 280, but you've only taken 3 wickets.
Yes.
They're in front of you on bonus points there at that stage. So it can be a bit confusing, but it is a 5-day game.
Yep.
So it's...
You're going to get a result
generally,
either way.
I hope there's a bit more in the wicket
Yep.
than what there was this game. This game, there was a bit of bounce there early, but, geez, it flattened out. There was a ball yesterday where it was a real good nick off Lloyd Pope, and it still didn't carry to Ben Minetti at first slip. And Ben Minetti was fielding on the boundary at the other end. So, really, not much further apart than we are now.
Yep.
And Ben said, "Geez, sorry, Popey, but I can't be any closer." And I've gone, "No, Ben, you can't."
No.
And Ben said, "Yeah, you agree." Just turned and went, "Yeah." I said, "No, you can't be any closer than that, because if he gets a full-blooded cut shot,
you're in a bit of trouble.
You've got to be able to see the ball." I said, "You can't be any closer." So yeah, so that's where you are at Shield games. You know.
Yeah, interacting a little bit more.
Yeah.
Last one on the Shield. Obviously, we know that the stadium deal. We talked about that a little bit earlier on. Is it a case of the lack of crowds that may have, over the past, that may have made this decision a touch easier? And you put it perfectly earlier on, going, we can't justify opening it for, say, a couple of hundred people or a couple of thousand people versus, obviously a reasonable crowd.
I did bring that up.
Yep.
To Sir Les.
Yep.
And Sir Les was very adamant with what the money Cricket Australia.
Yep.
It's irrelevant. So I thought that was interesting. And hopefully I'm not speaking out of school there.
No.
Don't think I am.
No.
Yeah, so I think it was relevant questioning.
Yep.
But, yeah, look, I'm just a bit...
Is it a chance for them to make some history at the Roulton Oval?
There is.
And that's where I'm at with it now. I mean, yes, we would have liked to have seen it at Adelaide Oval, but I look at it the other way going, you have a real opportunity to make history here, which is their unofficial home away from home.
Oh, look, and let's also remember, if it's at Victoria, they're not playing at the G, they're playing at the J. And we played Victoria in a Shield final at Alice Springs.
Yep.
So let's remember that.
Yep.
Queensland, if they're in the final, they're at Allan Borderfield.
Yep.
If New South Wales are in the final, they're at Cricket Central.
Yep.
So it's every ground.
Realistically, every city is playing a final because of the changeover of football and cricket, which it never happened.
Only been maybe Tasmania. Every other ground, it would have been.
Yep.
And cricket in WA, they play at the Wacker.
Yes.
They don't play generally at Optus at Shield level. So,
so realistically, most finals are going to be played, you would think, at the
so while we're up in arms,
home of that state.
Up at arms here, I did bring that up to a couple of people and say, let's remember every other state. And a couple of the guys went, yeah, it's a fair point.
Absolutely. Mate, I know you're going to be at the game. Obviously, looking forward to that. Coming up, obviously, what is it, the 18th to the 26th to the 30th, I think it is.
Yep.
So really looking forward to tuning in, watching a little bit when I can, and obviously touching base with you as well. All right, mate, we had better take another quick break. Coming up, we've got Greg Edwards Part 2. Greg was fantastic. And Scotty Borlase Part 1. Nord and Brisbane legend.
Good man, Borlacker.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
A dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Flashbacks.
Adelaide, his second. The Roosters skip ahead by 17 points, 12 gone final term. And Lockyer Jr. in that play won the hit out, got the little give out to Elbro, who found Young. And North Adelaide have one hand on the Thomas Seymour Hill Trophy.
And this is what we've been talking about.
Without the footy, will get the free. That appears to be young Morris, who comes up with it on the outer wing. The legs just running out of options here. Morris can put them inside 50. Sermon front and centre, got the handball into open space. North hack it off the ground. Richards picked it up nicely. How does he finish? How does Josh Richards finish? He finishes with a major. His first for the afternoon. And he keeps this side in the game. 17 gone final quarter. And Norwood hang in there. The margin back to 11 points.
It was a sensational pick up and finish. That was a little bit out of the box. It was not the worst decision given the conditions from Spinner, but really important plays and really good players finish off the effort and finish off the goal. So Jarvis hasn't had much to do today, but this is where his moment comes.
So the minor premiers under a little bit of pressure at the moment. And Jarvis, Ben Jarvis, lining up for his 29th goal on the season. We're right behind it on the SANFL Now coverage. Hasn't kicked a goal today. Kicks from the paint of 50. It's working back. It's working back. It's home. We have a 5-point ball game in the grand final. A minute from time on. Here come the Redlegs. 7-11-53. North Adelaide 8-10-58. 19 gone final term. Game on in the grand final, Crossy.
And this is what happens, these little moments. Individuals have to step up and have their moments. Kennedy probably hasn't had his best game either. All of a sudden just picks up, snap, goal. Jarvis hasn't had his best game, goes back and maturely...
Tackle over the line it goes. So, minutes remaining, you would think. 26 minutes we've gone in this grand final, the last term. North Adelaide, 8-10-58. Norwood, 7-11-53. North have led for the majority of the day. And the ball's going to be thrown back inside 50 in Norwood's forward line. Shallow throw in. Panos hovering. Panos gets the footy. Panos, has he kicked the Redlegs ahead? He has! Matthew Panos has put the Redlegs ahead. And look at the scenes here at the Adelaide Oval. Cometh the man, cometh the moment. Matthew Panos, you are a star. Joel Cross, the Redlegs are...
Extra time. Big finish.
All right, mate, and just reliving some of those glory days of the Norwood v North Adelaide 2022 final.
Yep, it was a great day. Yes.
We
won't talk about 8 a.m. But yeah.
No. The Panos goal was an absolute beauty. All right, let's move on. We will just talk soccer briefly again. The Premier League's pretty much all sewn up, isn't it? Liverpool are going to
probably the big result over the weekend. Absolutely fantastic. Newcastle winning their first major trophy in 70 years, winning the Carabao Cup, the old League Cup. So, seen some stuff Alan Shearer's posted, and that just huge, and congratulations to Newcastle. You know what? They're a big club, and to finally get a bit of silverware set in, first time in 70 years. So you've had long-term legends like Shearer never won anything. It was fantastic.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the NRL. Let's talk the ladder. The Storm sitting first. No surprises there. The Raiders, the Bulldogs, the Knights, the Rabbitohs, Brisbane Broncos, West Tigers, and the Sharks rounding out the top 8. The interesting part about that is the Storm are sitting top and they've only played one game, whereas almost everybody else has played 2.
It's a bit crazy, isn't it?
The Storm and the Titans are the only 2 that haven't played 2 games yet, but they're sitting top. That's probably an ominous sign that we might be seeing Storm around the mark somewhere this year.
They are a brilliantly run club.
For a team that's outside of
rugby heartland. It's quite incredible.
Yep. But we should give Brisbane and Sydney a lot of kudos for not really being in an AFL market, and they do pretty well, especially off-field. To make sure that they've, got the players and got the support that they need.
Very much so. And well run. You're talking like Sydney with Tom Harley and Andrew Pridham and Brisbane, obviously. That's a more than good point. Yep.
Absolutely. Let's talk golf. Is Tiger Woods' professional career pretty much all over? Because at the moment he's Mickey Mouse.
It's hanging by 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think he's hanging in to play with his son?
Maybe.
That might be the way to go. Yeah. All right, let's talk netball. I might have got something a little bit wrong last week. I might have been looking at last year's schedule and not this year's schedule.
Apologies
there. Yeah, that does happen from time to time. Round 1 is near. The Thunderbirds take on the Melbourne Vixens. The 5th of April at home. We're expecting a big crowd there at the
Entertainment
Centre.
They generally sell their games out.
Yep.
They're a good, well-supported side.
Exactly right.
In general.
Netball and basketball always have sell-out stadiums, don't they?
Yeah, I think netball probably sells itself well to the youngsters who play the sport.
Yes.
They're probably good in that regard, and I think that's something SANFL clubs and that could
need
learn
to start
from.
to do. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk tennis. The combined ATP and WTA Tour this week has a strong Australian flavour with at least 9 Aussies suiting up in the main draw. We've got Kimberly Burrell and Alana Tomljanovic in the women's, and in the men's, Dimonor, Popran, Thompson, Vukic, Hichikata, and Nick Kyrgios, someone we haven't really heard of too much since the Australian Open. So good luck to the Australians there in Miami. All right, let's talk the good, the bad, the ugly for this week, mate. I know you've got one to tee off on.
Yeah, I've already mentioned it earlier, Richmond and Hawthorn appealing tonight. For mine, Hawthorn have tried to play at semantics, haven't got that result through yet. I will look while we're speaking and have humble pie if I'm wrong there, but I still don't agree with it in general.
Yes.
And I thought Richmond were dumb, and I just hate the bit that there's really not enough there's no penalty against you. So, and the Hawk, Scrimshaw, so all 3 failed.
Yep.
I thought Lynch and Scrimshaw were just certainties to fail. I would love to have.
Yep. But the test case was obviously Archer.
I think Archer's a little unlucky. Yep. I see both sides of that one. The other 2.
Yep. I'm sort of with you a little bit on the ugly. It's just you can't eradicate contact in a contact sport. What about you good for the week, mate?
The enjoyable bit of, as Daryl Harper said, it was a perfect weekend. He described it yesterday. He said Nord win.
I knew this was coming.
Crows win.
Yep.
Port lose.
Yep.
Port Magpies lose.
Yep.
And the cricket's going okay. So he said a perfect weekend.
There you go.
Summed up well, Harps, former guest on the show.
Absolutely. We better wind things up there, mate. It's been another fantastic episode. As we say, as usual, if you haven't liked, rated and subscribed, please do. We have had a few more likes and subscriptions to our YouTube channel, so thank you very much to everyone who's done that. And like we say every week, we've got to do better, we can do better, and we will do better next week.
We'll make sure we know the netball program. Yeah,
we will indeed. Thank you very much, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at SportsCastSA. We'll see you next time on Game On.